Welcome back to The Explainer. I am so excited you're with us today because we're heading straight into the heart of Georgia's ancient past. We aren't just staring at old rocks today, folks. We are decoding a massive, multi-layered architectural puzzle, one that's literally survived empires, massive invasions, you name it. So let's get right into the legacy of the Rustavi Fortress.
Okay, let's dive into this. Just take a look at this gorgeous sunset view. To really get what's going on here, we have to ground ourselves geographically first. This fortress is sitting right there, majestically, on the left bank of the Clary River. And you know, they didn't put it up there for the scenery, even though, yeah, it's pretty spectacular. It was built up high for control, for vision, and for total, absolute dominance over the surrounding landscape.
But it kind of makes you wonder, right? What secrets are actually hiding inside these ruins? When we walk past a fortress today, it's so easy to just see a static, lifeless monument. But beneath this very dirt is an insanely dynamic story. We're talking massive architectural shifts, desperate medieval warfare, and some surprisingly lavish royal lifestyles that we're going to uncover together.
Real quick, here's our game plan for today. We'll cover its role as the guardian of the Kvari, the 3 eras of walls, the royal palace inside, unearthing 30,000 artifacts, and finally, an enduring national monument. We'll be zooming all the way from the macro defenses right down into the micro hidden details.
All right, Section 1, Guardian of the Kvari, a strategic stronghold protecting ancient Tbilisi.
Looking at it from this wide aerial angle, you can really grasp the sheer scale of the place. I mean, this was no minor outpost. Back at the end of the 4th century, King Tridot of Kartli, who was the son of Rev, specifically ordered this fortress to be built on this raised hill. And the reason is simple. The capital city of Tbilisi absolutely needed a shield. This fortress was basically the primary line of defense. It was designed to intercept any threats moving along the river valleyway way before they could even get close to the capital's gates. Now, before we go any further, we've got to bust a couple of historical name myths. See, if you were a non-Georgian local living around here in the 20th century, you probably called this place Rishkala, which, well, it was actually just a corrupted mispronunciation of Rustavi. And then, back in the 1920s, a historian named Pavli Imgorokva made a bit of a blunder. He labeled it the Rustavi Fortress, thinking it belonged to the noble Ardashiani family from the Hereti region. But historians quickly stepped in and corrected the record. This site has historically always been the Rustavi Fortress, a totally undeniable key part of the Kakheti-Kuketi region.
Moving on to Section 2, 3 eras of walls, the evolutionary architecture of defense.
So the Rustavi Fortress is really defined by this sort of rule of 3. It literally has 3 distinct walls, and they were built across 3 entirely different eras of warfare. The first wall goes way back to the 4th and 5th centuries. Then the second wall was this massive upgrade added in the 8th century. By the time the 9th to 11th centuries rolled around, builders actually squished those first 2 walls together to make one incredibly thick inner barrier. And finally, in the 12th and 13th centuries, a third outer wall was slapped on, complete with a super complex tunneled gate.
So, what does this all mean? Why did they keep rebuilding? Well, it definitely wasn't for curb appeal. It was literally a matter of life or death. The pre-8th century walls used your standard, traditional square towers. But then the 8th century brought these absolutely devastating Arab invasions that seriously wrecked the fortress and the city. The defenders quickly figured out that square corners were basically giant structural weak points during a long siege, so they were backed into a corner and forced into a tactical rebuild. They totally abandoned the original square towers and swapped them out for much stronger, way more resilient semicircular ones.
And this brilliantly illustrates that exact shift. If you look at the top-down view, you can clearly see those semicircular footprints just seamlessly baked right into the older structure. And right next to it, you're seeing the actual physical stone and mortar proof of a military adaptation that was born straight out of the fires of 8th century warfare. Check out this massive preserved chunk of the outer wall. Look at that intricately layered stone and brick. The eastern side of this fortress was actually considered super vulnerable, so they fortified it so heavily that it literally had 2 walls running side by side to keep invaders out. Just imagine being an attacking army, right? You finally managed to breach this gigantic stone wall, only to find another identical wall staring right back at you. Unbelievable.
All right, Section 3, the royal palace inside, where rulers lived amidst the wars.
Take a second to trace this intricate maze of foundational footprints. I want you to mentally place yourself right smack in the center of these ruins, because while the outside was this grim, battle-hardened military base, the inside, that was home to the city's ruler and his family.
Right where you're seeing those central foundations, there used to be a grand, incredibly advanced building.
And for its time, it was wildly luxurious. We're talking about a sprawling two-story palace structure with 7 spacious rooms on each floor. But the part that absolutely blows my mind is that they actually had colored glass windows letting all this vibrant light into the rooms, plus their very own private bathhouse. It's just such a crazy contrast, isn't it? This little pocket of extreme comfort and high-tech engineering, completely wrapped up in a heavy shell of defensive armor.
Now here is a real game changer. The Rustavi Fortress is literally the only fortress in the entirety of Georgia where interior frescoes have been discovered. No way, right? The inner walls of this palace were gorgeously painted. Archaeologists found all these remnants of vibrant plant ornaments, human figures, and, most importantly, these hunting scenes featuring the Mimino, which is a falcon. It just paints this incredibly vivid, colorful picture of what royal downtime actually looked like back in ancient Georgia.
On to Section 4, Unearthing 30,000 Artifacts, peeling back the historical layers.
Bringing this fortress back into the light of day was a massive, multi-decade mission. It started between 1944 and 1948, when historians did some minor scouting. Now, those preliminary digs were an absolute must because they proved to the academic world that this site was a total gold mine. Thanks to those early clues, they kicked off a huge uninterrupted excavation campaign that ran continuously from 1959 all the way through 1965.
So, let's talk about what they actually found. Just let this number sink in for a second. 30,000. Over those years of non-stop digging, archaeologists pulled up over 30,000 individual artifacts scattered through the different historical layers of dirt. Every single piece, whether it was a little fragment of colored glass, a rusty weapon, or a chunk of pottery, it all added a brand new sentence to the amazing story of Rustavi.
Oh, and the surprises definitely didn't stop there. 39. That is the age in centuries of the absolute oldest tomb discovered on this site. A 39-century-old tomb. Think about that. That single discovery completely blew the historical timeline wide open. It proved for a fact that humans were living, thriving, and burying their dead on this exact patch of land thousands of years before King Tredat even thought about laying the first stone of his 4th-century wall.
Finally, Section 5, an enduring national monument, the legacy of Rustavi.
Sitting so peacefully against those green trees, this beautifully preserved, curved brickwork is a perfect reminder of the site's recognized importance. On August 27, 2020, the Georgian government stepped up and officially passed a resolution elevating the Rustavi Fortress to an immovable cultural monument of national significance. And that is absolutely crucial because it guarantees this absolute masterclass in architectural evolution stays protected for generations.
As your eyes follow this ancient stone tunnel leading up into the bright daylight, I really hope it drives home the point that the Rustavi Fortress is so much more than just a pile of old rocks. It's this deeply, deeply layered story. A story about desperate survival against impossible invasions, about opulent royalty hiding out behind colored glass, and about a massive modern archaeological triumph that brought a forgotten world back to life. So, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. If you were to walk up those stone steps and step through those ancient gates right now, today, which layer of history would speak to you the loudest? Would you hear the clash of swords bouncing off those 8th-century semicircular walls? Would it be the quiet, colorful luxury of the frescoed palace? Or maybe it's that silent, 39-century-old tomb resting far beneath your feet. Thanks for hanging out with me on The Explainer today. Stay curious, keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next one.